Chapter 2445. Elder Fu couldn't take it lying down. All the mercenaries spoke up for Luo Qingtong. As a member of the Tianfeng Chu family, no one dared to disrespect him like this. Although he could swallow his anger in order to let these mercenaries take the mission, he didn't want to let go of Luo Qingtong, the culprit. He had thought highly of Gui Feng and Hu Zhan. But they actually went against him for Luo Xiaoqi. Elder Fu didn't like them at all. They didn't want to take the mission, but Luo Xiaoqi had to stay. And the mercenaries didn't want Luo Qingtong to leave either. What a joke. They even offended the Tianfeng Chu family for Luo Xiaoqi. Instead, they let the Black Iron mercenary group take the lead. If Luo Qingtong left with Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, what would they do? Without Luo Qingtong as the backbone of the team, they were terrified. No, Hu Zhan, don't be so impulsive. That's right. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for us. If Xiaoqi leaves, what should we do? You Red Flame mercenary group can't be so disloyal. They all talked at once, which made Hu Zhan choke with anger. Couldn't these idiots see that Elder Fu was trying to get rid of Luo Xiaoqi? Just as he was about to open his mouth in anger, Gui Feng pressed down on his shoulder and suppressed him. Don't be impulsive. If we go against the Tianfeng Chu family, it won't be good for Luo Xiaoqi and us. He glanced at Elder Fu and the members of the Tianfeng Chu family behind him and said. Gui Feng knew it very well. If they didn't take the mission, it wouldn't do them any good. Not to mention that Elder Fu didn't allow Luo Qingtong to leave. Even if he did, Gui Feng wouldn't quit the mission. Because if they quit the mission, they and Luo Qingtong would be even less safe. On the contrary, they were together with the people from Mercenary City, advancing and retreating together. Only then would those people from the Tianfeng Chu clan not dare to make a move secretly. When Hu Zhan first spoke, Gui Feng wasn't prepared to agree. Gui Feng felt helpless in his heart. This fellow's brain was lacking a few tendons. His thinking was too simple. Luo Qingtong also wanted to hold Tiger Zhan down. What Gui Feng could think of, she could naturally think of as well. However, since Gui Feng had already made his move, she did not make another move. She merely smiled and said, Big brother Hu Zhan was just joking. It's impossible for us, the Red Flame mercenary group, to withdraw from the mission. After all, it's our honor to be able to help the Tianfeng Chu family. Don't you agree, Elder Fu? She looked at him with a smile. She remembered everything that Elder Fu said to her just now. When the mission started, there would be plenty of opportunities for revenge. Why should she be in a hurry? She was looking forward to finding out what the mission was that could make the people from the Tianfeng Chu family come to Mercenary City to work for them. It must be very complicated. If anything unexpected happened during this mission, then she could not be blamed. Wasn't that the case? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and gently caressed her wrist. The smile on her face became even more innocent, as if she didn't take Elder Fu's words to heart. Humph. Seeing her expression, Elder Fu snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Gui Feng and the others weren't weak. In the current situation, one more helping hand meant one more chance. He didn't need to waste Gui Feng and the others' help for an ugly, vulgar, and weak young man. Otherwise, why would he tolerate Hu Zhan's impudence? He would have kicked him out long ago. Since that's the case, let's talk about the mission. As he spoke, he slowly opened his mouth and explained the mission one by one. Following his voice, the crowd's expressions immediately changed. Chapter 2446. Tian Luo Grass? Luo Qingtong's eyes sparkled. She fixed her gaze on Elder Fu. The people around her were also breathing heavily, as if they were unable to control themselves. It wasn't that the mercenaries lacked self-control, but the news that Elder Fu told them was too shocking. It was no wonder that after they had summoned the people of Mercenary City, they had only sent the experts and managers of the high-ranked mercenary groups. It wasn't that they were arrogant, but that there was more to this mission. And it was extremely shocking. That's right, Tian Luo Grass. Elder Fu's face was filled with pride and arrogance when he saw the shocked expressions on the mercenaries' faces. Humph, these vulgar people from Mercenary City. If it weren't for this special situation, why would the Tianfeng Chu clan need to come to Mercenary City to find people? Elder Fu's eyes darkened. I don't think I need to explain more about this Tian Luo grass. This is a peerless immortal herb that can only be formed after being nurtured by Kane Qi and the Great Tao. It usually only forms when the heart of a high-ranking continent transforms. It's extremely rare for the heart of a high-ranking continent to transform. It usually only transforms when a high-ranking continent is on the verge of destruction. Once the heart of a continent transforms successfully, the high-ranking continent will be able to continue its life. If it doesn't, the high-ranking continent will be completely destroyed. This Tianluo grass is formed when the heart of a continent transforms. There are countless hearts of continents in the world that transforms when the time comes, but only a few can form a peerless immortal herb like the Tianluo grass. This Tianluo grass can not only help a person obtain an immortal spiritual body, but it can also transform a person overnight. Even an idiot, a person as stupid as a pig after touching this heaven-sifting grass, would immediately transform into a mortal body and achieve an immortal spirit body. At the same time, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds, and they will directly enter the venerable realm. If someone above the venerable realm obtains it, their strength will also increase by a whole realm. At the same time, whether it's advancing to the human martial realm or the human martial realm, there won't be any obstacles. This peerless immortal herb is the reason why we're here to issue this mission. The mercenaries swallowed their saliva when they heard Elder Fu's words. The ability to break through a whole realm aside, the immortal spiritual body alone was enough to drive them crazy. The immortal spiritual body. What was the goal of all these cultivators to go against the heavens? It wasn't for supreme power but for the great Tao of heaven and earth. The immortal spiritual chi was a threshold to the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was the martial artists when they cultivated to the venerable realm. This was because the introduction of the immortal chi was a huge test for them. From the body to the soul, everything had to undergo a metamorphosis. Not only that, it was not easy for them to absorb and refine the immortal chi. Every wisp of immortal energy had to go through layers of refinement and extraction before they could obtain a tiny bit of energy to strengthen and fill their meridians. Under such circumstances, they did not know how long they would have to cultivate for before they could absorb enough energy for their own advancement. Chapter 2447. The law of heaven and earth contained in it was even more complicated and profound. It could be said that every step was arduous and difficult. Every expert who could cultivate to the venerable realm and above had endured for an unknown amount of time. Of course, there were those who were extremely talented and took much less time to cultivate than others, but they still managed to reach their current level. However, the immortal spiritual body was different. If one attained the immortal spiritual body, they would naturally be able to absorb immortal spiritual chi. This powerful aura, which was even more powerful than spiritual chi, was as simple as eating and drinking in front of the immortal spiritual body. One could easily refine the power and law of heaven and earth from the immortal spiritual chi. Therefore, no one would not be tempted by the news of the Tianluo grass. However, the group of mercenaries were not fools. Why would the Tianfeng Chu clan leak the news of such an immortal herb? Why would they let them complete the mission? Were they not afraid that they would take it for themselves? After all, no one could resist the temptation of the Tianluo grass. The group of mercenaries was very confused. The leader of a high-ranking mercenary group directly asked the question. "Humph, if you can get the Tianluo grass, then it's your ability. But is it so easy to get such a peerless immortal herb?" Elder Fu's face was full of disdain when he heard the leader's question. If it was so easy to get the Tianluo grass, why would he come to these mercenaries? Did he think that the Tianfeng Chu clan had no one else? If the strength of these itinerant cultivators and mercenaries were to be displayed, the disciples of the Tianfeng Chu clan's branch families would be able to kill them in an instant with the help of their cultivation methods and weapons, even if their cultivation levels were much lower than theirs. If it weren't for the special circumstances, why would they come to these trash? These mercenaries might not think too highly of themselves. Elder Fu's face was full of disdain. His words also made the mercenaries very embarrassed. Gui Feng and Hu Zhan were the same. These mercenaries were all self-taught geniuses. They relied on their courage, stumbling, and relying on their talent and perseverance to forcefully kill their way out of this cold-blooded and merciless heavenly Tao. Their strength was indeed inferior to those disciples who came from large sects and factions. Because they didn't have a systematic learning system, they didn't have powerful cultivation techniques, and they didn't have any elders who could teach them and point out their cultivation mistakes. Everything they relied on was their own lives and their courage to not be afraid of death. What right did Elder Fu have to look down on them? If they had been born in a big family or even an ordinary family or sect, they wouldn't have been afraid of Elder Fu at all. In terms of willpower and talent, even the disciples of the 10 great clans might not be able to compete with them. After all, for the mercenaries who had risen from humble beginnings to their current strength, which one of them had talent and strength that was inferior to the disciples of the big families? They just didn't have the resources and background of the disciples of the big clans. In this world, what mattered was not talent and strength but resources. Everyone was sad. They didn't want to accept Elder Fu's disdain, but they couldn't refute him. They were angry but didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 2448. However, that place doesn't belong to the Tianfeng domain. Do you understand now? That place belongs to another star area, a 6-star area called the Flying Star Area. That abandoned high-level continent is right at the edge of the Flying Star Area. The experts of the Tianfeng Chu clan can't take it by themselves, so we need your help. Elder Fu's voice was cold. If the disciple of the Tianfeng Chu clan hadn't been discovered by others when he found the Tianfeng grass, they wouldn't have been in such a passive position. Now, another family in the Flying Star area had also learned about the Tianfeng grass. In order to prevent this information from being leaked, they had tacitly kept it a secret. But at the same time, in order to compete for the ownership of the Tianfeng grass, they made an agreement with each other. That was to let the juniors of their clans fight for the Tianfeng grass. But because of the danger of the Tianfeng grass, they couldn't let the juniors go alone. But if they sent the experts of their clans to guard it, they were worried that the other party would do something to it. Therefore they made an agreement to hire mercenaries. They would swear to the heavens and earth that these mercenaries weren't their men. Otherwise they would die on the spot. After the oath, the fight would begin. No matter which family got the Tianfeng grass, the other family wouldn't be able to stop them. Therefore, Elder Fu wasn't worried that someone among the mercenaries would take the Tianfeng grass for himself. How capable was the other party to escape from the pursuit of the two families? Not to mention that the experts of the various clans would be guarding the Forsaken Continent. If the other party could get the Tianfeng grass and escape from their pursuit, they would accept it. After Elder Fu finished speaking, they finally understood what was going on. So that's how it is. The high-class continent discovered by the Heavenly Wind Chu clan was not in the Heavenly Wind region? No wonder they asked them to take action. If that was the case, everything made sense. After all, the fewer people who knew about the Tianfeng grass, the better. Although the Tianfeng Chu clan was powerful, there might be other families in the Tianfeng domain that could compete with them. The Tianfeng grass was in the Flying Star area, which was not related to them. If they went there with great fanfare and were discovered by others, they would be in trouble. Moreover, it was easy to attract the attention of other aristocratic families. After all, a stalk of Skynet grass was already sufficient to create an extremely valiant genius disciple. Entering the venerable realm overnight was equivalent to many years of bitter cultivation. Not to mention a physique like the immortal spiritual body, who knew how many people coveted it. In the future, when he cultivated, it would be so difficult. It was unknown how many times faster his strength would advance compared to others. Furthermore, it didn't affect his strength at all. His foundation was still as solid as ever. It's like using a powerful pump to suck up water. You can't say that the quality of the water it absorbs isn't good just because it absorbs water faster and more, right? Wasn't it still the same water? But the time it takes to fill up the pool is faster and stronger than you. Everyone thought so and sighed in their hearts. Unfortunately, the heavenly luo grass was not theirs. All right. Everyone nodded in agreement. If that was the case, they had no reason to refuse. The reward given by the Tianfeng Chu family was also very generous. Chapter 2449. The Tianfeng Chu family would even give them some of the cultivation methods and secret manuals that they had given to their affiliated families. Of course, even if they didn't complete the mission, the Tianfeng Chu family wouldn't treat them badly. They would still be rewarded. But they wouldn't be as generous as completing the mission. Everyone was very excited when they heard that. Especially when they heard about the cultivation methods and secret manuals, they couldn't help but feel excited. After all, mercenaries who had been through a lot of bloodshed lacked cultivation methods and secret manuals the most, as well as cultivation experience. When they heard that the Tianfeng Chu family would provide them with these, they were as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan didn't think there was anything wrong with such a mission. Even the rewards of the mission were much better than what they usually received. It was worth it. But they were very worried about Luo Qingtong. If they had known that the Tianfeng Chu family wanted them to fight for the Tianluo grass, they would have objected to Luo Qingtong staying. Now that Elder Fu had forced her to participate in the mission, what should they do? Although the young man's ability was powerful, her strength was too weak. She was only at the peak of the Holy Venerable Realm. She was at the bottom of the mercenaries. After all, even the weakest mercenary among them was at the Green Venerable Realm. The two of them were very worried. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, was very happy. Tianluo grass? This is a rare opportunity. I didn't expect the Tianfeng Chu family to come here with this mission. Luo Qingtong's eyes were faintly shining with a demonic bloody light. That was the expression of her excitement. Soon the light disappeared. Luo Qingtong didn't expect to encounter such a good thing when she was about to leave Mercenary City in 2 days. She didn't care about the Tianluo grass, which could help her achieve the immortal spiritual body. Instead, she valued its effect of achieving the Venerable Realm overnight. Luo Qingtong had advanced to the Holy Venerate Realm so far. It was unknown whether it was because she had absorbed Xiao Tuanzi's power and aura, or because she had advanced too quickly. In short, no matter how hard she tried, she was always one step away from breaking through. The Venerable Realm was right in front of him, but the barrier could be touched and seen. But it just couldn't be broken. It was so hard that it made people feel stifled. Luo Qingtong made a careful calculation. If she were to follow the normal speed of absorbing spiritual energy, she would have to wait a few years before she could break through the barrier of the Venerable Realm. Otherwise, she would have to wait until Xiao Tuanzi woke up to ask it what was going on. But now, neither of these were easy to achieve. Now, the appearance of the Tianfeng Chu family had solved her problem. That sky luo grass, if she could obtain it. Luo Qingtong's lips curved up slightly. She looked at Elder Fu's arrogant face and smiled without saying a word. Right at this moment, the voices of Gui Feng and the others suddenly rang out. Elder Fu, this matter is really too dangerous. We are willing to do anything for you, but can you give Little Seven a way out and not participate in this mission? Pfft. Hearing Gui Feng's words, Luo Qingtong almost choked on her own saliva. Brother Gu? She turned to look at Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, and her lips twitched slightly. It can't be, right? Gui Feng and the others must not cause trouble. She knew they cared about her. Chapter 2450. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, Gui Feng and Hu Zhan each pressed her shoulders. Xiaoqi, don't speak. Let us handle this. If we let you do this, it'll be over. Luo Qingtong stared at Gui Feng and Hu Zhan, who were staring at Elder Fu, waiting for him to speak. Now she could only hope that Elder Fu would be a little more helpful. Don't agree so easily. Please despise me as much as you can. Perhaps Elder Fu had heard her inner cry. He glanced at her and Gui Feng with a smug look and snorted. What do you think the mission of the Tianfeng Chu clan is? Since you wanted to come. Then you can't leave now. With that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Luo Xiaoqi had such a great influence on Gui Feng and the others. How could he let her leave alone? What's more, didn't Gui Feng and the others just embarrass him for Luo Xiaoqi? Elder Fu deliberately asked Luo Qingtong to stay just to see Gui Feng and the others' annoyed and regretful expressions. He was very pleased with himself. But he didn't know that Luo Qingtong was giving him a thumbs up in her heart. Good job. Old man, you're pretty awesome. Ahem. Luo Qingtong coughed softly and looked at Gui Feng and Hu Zhan. It's okay, brother Gu, brother Hu Zhan. I'll go with you. It won't be dangerous. Besides, everyone will protect me. Is that so? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the mercenaries not far away. Yes. Everyone looked at Gui Feng and Hu Zhan as if they were going to eat them. How could they dare to stay any longer? After nodding his head, he ran out like a wisp of smoke. Not to mention anything else, they still had to explain the mission to the people in the square. The Tianfeng Chu clan's conditions were so generous. Coupled with the allure of the resources in the high-class continent, everyone was very satisfied with this mission. The only downside was that they had involved Luo Qingtong this time, causing her to have to go on a mission with them. But weren't Gui Feng and the rest also involved in this matter? It wasn't like they were the only ones speaking up for Luo Qingtong. The two of them had spoken up as well. Moreover, if Gui Feng hadn't provoked them first and forced them to speak, they wouldn't have stood up at that time. The group of people ran away like a wisp of smoke. Even the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group slowly led his men away. He was waiting to see how unlucky Luo Xiaoqi would be after going to that abandoned continent with them. She might not even survive the first day. Fight with him. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was in a good mood. He didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would have such benefits after being invited by those mercenary groups. Not only did he show his face in front of Old Fu, but he also talked to him. And Luo Qingtong was forced to go to that abandoned continent. He didn't have to do it himself. The other party might not be able to come out alive. It was really refreshing. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group leisurely walked away. Before he left, he glanced at Luo Qingtong, Gui Feng and the others proudly. Hu Zhan was so angry that his teeth itched. He almost beat him up, but was stopped by Luo Qingtong. Big brother Hu Zhan, don't mind them. Let's go back. I have something good to show you. Luo Qingtong thought for a long time. This time, with her strength and her blood eyes, she might not have an accident on the abandoned continent. Chapter 2451. She originally planned to write down the immortal secret manuals in her mind after leaving Mercenary City and give some to Hujan and the others for them to cultivate. At that time, when their foundation was sufficient, Hujan and the others' strength would also be greatly improved. After all, Hujan and the others only lacked a little bit of foundation and resources compared to the children of those big families. And among them, foundation was the most important. Hujan and the others could earn resources by themselves. With foundation, what resources couldn't they want to improve their strength? But without foundation, Hujan and the others couldn't go to other places to get those cultivation methods and secret manuals. Ordinary cultivation methods and secret manuals, as long as they were good, were the treasures of the big families and sections. If Hujan and the others didn't join those sects and families, they wouldn't be able to get them at all. Even if they were lucky enough to get them, once they revealed it after cultivating and were found out by others, it would be a dead end. But the cultivation methods and secret manuals that Luo Qingtong taught them were different. They were engraved by her from those cultivation sects on Earth. In this different world, they were unique and weren't afraid of being found out at all. During this period of time, Hujan, Gu Yifeng, and the others took good care of her. Logically speaking, Luo Qingtong couldn't just watch them make a move. What's more, these cultivation methods and secret manuals were the reward she wanted to repay them from the beginning. Luo Qingtong thought and immediately brought Hujan and Gu Yifeng back to the Red Flame mercenary group's encampment. The latter and the others were confused for a while. Ouyang Yingyu and the others were still waiting for news in the square outside. Seeing a group of high-ranking mercenary groups come out in high spirits, they thought they had encountered such a good thing. But looking at Hujan and Gu Yifeng's sad expressions, they felt that something was wrong. What's going on? Are you all crying at a funeral? Ouyang Yingyu looked at Hujan and Gu Yifeng with a strange expression. Hujan was fine, this guy was born with a screw loose in his head. But what was going on with Gu Yifeng? Their leader had always been the most calm. Everyone stared at the two of them. Hujan looked at them and was about to speak. On the other side, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded in their ears. Brother Gu, this is for you. After Luo Qingtong returned to the Red Flame mercenary group's encampment, she started to spread out the rice paper and started to write. Her background was too complicated, and it wasn't convenient for her to tell Gu Yifeng and the others, so she directly wrote down the cultivation techniques and secret manuals that she had prepared for them. Her blood-red pupils spun rapidly. Luo Qingtong copied all the mysterious methods and matters of cultivation in those secret manuals on white paper. In just a short while, there were several cultivation methods, secret manuals, and martial skills piled up beside her. Luo Qingtong handed these cultivation methods and martial skills to Gu Yifeng and the others. The latter and the others were still blaming themselves. Just as he was about to ask her what it was, he suddenly froze. This is? Gu Yifeng's voice trembled. He looked at the books that Luo Qingtong had just written, and there was still ink on the paper. His heart was filled with indescribable shock and excitement. Little Seven, we are sorry. This is... Hujan also came over at this time wanting to apologize to Luo Qingtong. However, when he came in front of Gu Yifeng, his eyes widened in an instant. Chapter 2452. Oh my God. He pinched his thigh fiercely, and after a heart-wrenching pain for a while, he finally believed that everything in front of him was not a dream but real. Oh my God. These martial arts manuals are all real? Hujan looked at the martial arts manuals handed over by Luo Qingtong and laughed dryly. He almost wanted to ask Luo Qingtong if she wrote them casually for fun. However, before he could say anything, he slapped himself and woke himself up. What the hell was she writing casually? If she hadn't already memorized them by heart, even if she flew, she wouldn't have been able to recite all these martial arts manuals. The only explanation was that these martial arts manuals were all real. Moreover, Luo Qingtong knew how to use them all. Therefore, she was able to write them down from memory for them. Golden Sword Chop. World Return to One Technique. Mandarin Duck Twin Sword. No Heart and No Nonsense Technique. One by one, the names of the martial arts manuals jumped into Hujan's eyes. All of them were martial arts manuals and names that he had never heard of before. Moreover, the cultivation levels indicated on these martial arts manuals were all above the Venerable realm. There were even some in the human martial arts realm and the earth martial arts realm. Naturally, this was automatically calculated by Luo Qingtong according to the cultivation levels in this strange world. After all, the immortal cultivation manuals on Earth and the cultivation system in this strange world were completely different. Luo Qingtong carefully estimated the power and effect of those martial arts manuals and marked them with their respective cultivation levels. She only took out 2 martial arts manuals of the Earth martial arts realm. With Hu Zhan and Gui Feng's current strength, the first to enter the Earth martial arts realm would definitely be the 2 of them. Under such circumstances, 2 martial arts manuals were enough. Too many would be useless. Moreover, in the future, if the people of the Red Flame mercenary group didn't change their original intentions, Luo Qingtong would naturally give them more benefits. In this life, she wasn't afraid of giving benefits to others. But she was afraid of giving benefits to the wrong people. Therefore, no matter what Luo Qingtong did, she would always leave some leeway. Gui Feng, Hu Zhan, and the others were loyal to her, so she naturally wouldn't be stingy with good things. In this world, if you want something, you have to exchange it with something. If you don't have anything, you can only use your heart and feelings. After all, it was impossible for him to not pay a price. They were both human beings for the first time. Why should she give whatever she had to the other party unconditionally? Sorry, but if she didn't like people, then she wouldn't give it to them. Hu Zhan's shocked attitude attracted the curiosity of Ouyang Yingyu and the others. The latter stood up and walked over. What are you 2 doing? With all this commotion, people who don't know would think that you guys picked it up. Where are the treasures? Ouyang Yingyu's words were stuck in her mouth, but it was too late to say them out loud. She looked at the stack of secret manuals that Luo Qingtong took out in front of her in shock. She was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. Wait, I think I'm dreaming. Ouyang Yingyu raised her hand and covered her forehead and eyes in front of everyone's puzzled eyes. About 2 seconds later, a sharp, ear-piercing and shocking female voice resounded in the hall. Quick, quick, quick. Quickly cover my mouth. Ouyang Yingyu was going crazy. It's true, it's true. Damn. In front of Luo Qingtong, there really was a pile of secret manuals and martial arts manuals. Chapter 2453. Especially the leader, who was usually such a quiet and solemn person. She was so shocked that her mouth couldn't close. How long had it been like this? And that bastard, Hu Zhan, the floor under his feet was about to collapse. Couldn't he use a little less strength? Asking someone to fix it costs money. As Ouyang Yingyu thought about it, she screamed and asked the people around her to quickly cover her mouth. Her screams couldn't be stopped. When Ouyang Yingyu screamed, the other members of the Red Flame mercenary group were all shocked and gathered around. Then each of them had a look of excitement, shock, and disbelief. Oh my God. Martial arts. Secret manuals. Martial arts. They only saw it from afar at the auction and could only buy the lowest quality goods at the highest price, but it appeared in front of them. The group of people from the Red Flame mercenary group were shocked to the extreme, their faces all flushed red. Quick. Close the door of the hall first. Gui Feng was the first to come back to his senses, and then he said to the 2 members of the Red Flame mercenary group who were closest to him. The 2 of them seemed to have woken up from a dream, and immediately ran to the door and slammed it shut. Oh my God. Everyone's heart was beating so fast that it was about to jump out. It was really 2F*King exciting. This was definitely the most exciting and shocking day they had ever experienced. Little 7. Gui Feng raised his hand and pressed on Luo Qingtong's shoulder, pushing her to sit on the stool next to the table. His heart was full of excitement, and the fingers that pressed on Luo Qingtong were faintly trembling. Little 7. He took a deep breath and tried to stabilize his voice and said to Luo Qingtong, "These martial arts and secret manuals, where did you get them? Are you?" He took a deep breath and said, "Are you a young master who ran out from some big family to gain experience? These martial arts and secret manuals are all in your family?" Luo Qingtong was stunned when she heard his words. When she took out these martial arts and secret manuals, she knew that Gui Feng and the others would guess her identity. She was also wondering if she should tell them the truth. But after thinking about it, she decided not to. She was in danger now, and it would be fine if Gui Feng and the others didn't know, but if they knew, it might harm them. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was thinking about how to tell them. But who would have thought that before she could say anything, Gui Feng had already found an identity and reason for her. A young master from a big family? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. For a moment she didn't know how to answer them. Forget it, they've misunderstood. Forget it then. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she stopped talking. And Gui Feng and the others Luo's teeth. God, T. Chapter 2454. The latter was still excitedly asking her, "Hey Xiaoqi, which family are you from? There's no super family with the surname Luo in this Tianfeng domain." Hu Zhan's idea was very simple. Luo Qingtong was able to take out these secret manuals, in addition to her ability and shrewdness. The young man's family must be extraordinary. But in this Tianfeng domain, he didn't seem to have heard of such a family. Luo Qingtong's expression froze. Just as she was thinking about how to cover up this lie, Ouyang Yingyu scolded Hu Zhan, "Aren't you annoying? Xiaoqi originally escaped from her family. Who knows how her dog family treats her? Maybe not at all. Xiaoqi must have changed her surname. Or she doesn't want to talk about that family at all. Don't mention it." Gu Yifeng also had this intention, but with his identity he couldn't say anything to Hu Zhan. Ouyang Yingyu's words made him feel a lot better. That's right. He looked at Luo Qingtong softly and said, "If Xiaoqi doesn't want to say it, then forget it. We won't force you." It's just that. He looked at the secret manuals in his hand and said in a deep voice, "We can't accept these secret manuals. Xiaoqi, are these your family's treasures? You'd better take them all back. Otherwise, when you're discovered in the future, you'll suffer." Gu Yifeng was very touched by Luo Qingtong's action of taking out these secret manuals for them. The young man's temperament was pure and sincere. He was not only guarded against others, but also extremely pure and kind. This kind of secret manual was actually given to them to use. But because of this, Gu Yifeng and the others couldn't accept his secret manuals. Otherwise, once they were discovered, they could escape. But what about Luo Qingtong? If she was caught and brought back to the family, what kind of punishment would she receive? Gu Yifeng didn't dare to imagine. Historically, people who betrayed their family didn't have a good ending. Therefore, even if Gu Yifeng and the others wanted these secret manuals, they couldn't accept them. Otherwise he would be harming Luo Qingtong. As soon as Gu Yifeng's words left his mouth, Ouyang Yingyu, Hu Zhan, and the others seemed to have thought of the same thing. The light in their eyes dimmed, and they immediately restrained the joyous and shocked expressions on their faces. They hurriedly said, "That's right. Little Seven, take back all these cultivation methods and manuals. We can't accept it." When everyone spoke, even Hu Zhan hurriedly put back the secret manual in his hand. He pushed it in front of Luo Qingtong and urged, "That's right, Little Seven, quickly take this thing back." Luo Qingtong looked at them and her heart felt even more at ease. She had not misjudged him. Even when these secret manuals were delivered to them, they could resist the urge to take them. It could be seen that he really cared about her and was genuinely concerned about her safety. Luo Qingtong thought and suddenly smiled, "Big brother Gu, big brother Hu Zhan, big sister Yingyu, you don't have to worry. I obtained all of these secret manuals by accident. They don't belong to any family or family. You can rest assured. Nothing will happen. My family members also don't know." At this point, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly. She thought of the dog family that Hu Zhan had just mentioned. The expression on her face was simply indescribable. Chapter 2455. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she suddenly smiled. When Hu Zhan and the others heard her words, they were stunned. Their eyes, which had dimmed down, suddenly lit up. "Really?" Hu Zhan, the uncouth man, jumped up immediately. He grabbed Luo Qingtong with an excited expression and shook her fiercely. "Little Seven, you can't lie to me. No, I swear to the heavens that this secret cultivation method has nothing to do with any of the sects or families here." Luo Qingtong's voice was sly, and she deliberately made some changes to the word "here." Originally, these secret cultivation method books were not from this world. She was not wrong in saying so. Hu Zhan, Ouyang Yingyu, and the others heard this and immediately jumped up in joy. Gu Yifeng also had a smile on his face. Luo Qingtong looked at them and quickly said, "But big brother Gu, if you get this secret cultivation method book, you must not tell others where it came from. If others ask, just say that you got it by luck." When Luo Qingtong said this, Hu Zhan and the others immediately nodded and said, "Don't worry, Little Seven, we know what to say." Everyone naturally knew that Luo Qingtong wanted to hide her identity. They thought that Luo Qingtong did not want to be caught by the family, so she said this. But only Luo Qingtong knew that this was to protect their safety. Not revealing the origin of these cultivation methods and secret manuals would be of great benefit to both of them. Otherwise, it was hard to say when someone would deliberately come to investigate her. Especially those black-clothed men. Speaking of those people, Luo Qingtong also thought of the strange man who patted her chest that night. Who was that person? Was he one of those black-clothed men? While Luo Qingtong was thinking in her heart, in another part of Mercenary City, Yu Mingqian, who had changed into another set of clothes and was covered in a black cloak, looked coldly at the black-clothed man kneeling in front of him. "Can't find out?" His voice was icy cold. The man who appeared outside Luo Qingtong's room that day was very mysterious. It seemed that he was there for Luo Xiaoqi's identity. He didn't know what he was trying to confirm. Could it be that someone else had already found out about Qin Meng and the things he knew behind the scenes? However, if that was the case, it was impossible for foster father to not mention it to him. After all, they still had to rely on him to find out who was behind Qin Meng. As Yu Mingqian thought of this, her eyes narrowed. Please forgive me, master. That person's strength is very high. After we followed him, we all lost him. That night, Yi Qianxian came to investigate Luo Qingtong's identity. When he left, Yu Mingqian had her people follow him. He didn't expect that he couldn't find any trace of the other party. Furthermore, the other party's strength was so strong that he was able to silently shake off the people around him. Yu Mingqian frowned. At this moment, the black-clothed man gathered his courage and said, Master, there is a letter from the Central Inscription Association urging you to go back quickly. You see, after Yu Mingqian found out Luo Qingtong's identity, he didn't report it. Instead, he killed all the people around him who had objections to him. Now the Central Inscription Association's people had become suspicious and were urging him to go back. After all, he had already lost the person. Why would Yu Mingqian stay outside? Yu Mingqian naturally knew the true meaning of the Central Inscription Association's urging. Chapter 2456. Oh, you're really afraid that I'll find out what's hidden behind it? Yu Mingqian sneered, his face full of mockery. He had only agreed to hunt down Qin Meng on a whim. He didn't expect his foster father to be so nervous. When he realized that he couldn't catch him, he immediately called him back. Yu Mingqian suspected that his previous guess was right. In fact, when he was in Tianfeng Inscription City, he had the chance to capture Qin Meng alive. But at that time he had doubts in his heart. In addition, he was interested in Luo Qingtong, so he let it go. He didn't expect the young man named Xie to be so powerful that he could kill Qin Meng directly and escape from his hands. Now that he finally gained a little trust from Xie, how could he leave at this time? But he couldn't ignore the urging of the Central Inscription Association. If they were really suspicious and sent people to investigate, everything he did and the young man named Xie would be exposed. If possible, Yu Mingqian didn't want Luo Qingtong to be discovered by the Central Inscription Association. The secret of the inscription of God on her body could only be his. Find something for the Central Inscription Association to do. His voice was casual and his fingers tapped on the table. The matter of the Immortal Slayer Palace hasn't been solved yet, right? It's said that my foster father has been tracking down the remnants of the Immortal Slayer Palace. It's time for them to show up. You guys go and arrange this. Yes. The group of men in black immediately bowed their heads and answered. Some people wanted to say something, but when they saw Yu Mingxuan's eyes, they immediately trembled and lowered their heads, not daring to speak again. Only one man in black, after receiving Yu Mingxuan's order, asked in a low voice, Master, this matter can only be put on hold for a while. When are you going to go back? The Central Inscription Association was not easy to fool. Even with the matter of the Immortal Slayer Palace outside, there was no way to fool the Central Inscription Association for too long. If the master didn't go back, sooner or later they would be suspicious. Well, after a while, Yu Mingxuan's face was indifferent. He thought of the scene when he stood in front of Luo Qingtong. He had almost won the other party's trust. At that time, he would be able to find a way to ask about the god's inscription. However, this matter could not be rushed. Of course, if he still couldn't gain the other party's complete trust, then he could only resort to extreme measures. No matter what, he had to get the news of the god's inscription. A cold light flashed in Yu Mingqian's eyes. Meanwhile, on the other side of Mercenary City, where Yi Qianxian and the others were staying, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others had also found out the purpose of the Tianfeng Chu family's visit. Tianluo grass? Yi Qianxian looked at them. Yes, master. It's the Tianluo grass. As Feng Yu spoke, there was excitement in her eyes. Master, the appearance of Tianluo grass is very rare. Your meridians are severely damaged now. It's even worse than when you met the evil doctor. You can't use your full strength anymore. The existence of Tianluo grass can ease the injury of your meridians, so that your meridians will not continue to deteriorate. Master, the Tianfeng Chu family is now gathering mercenaries. Before they get the Tianluo grass, they will seal off Mercenary City, saying that they are investigating something. Chapter 2457. Feng Yu's words sounded a little cautious. Because Yi Qianxian used to hate people mentioning these things. His heavenly pulse body was destined to be incurable. He would die at the age of 28. Even if his life was temporarily extended, he would not exceed 30. This was the fate of generations of the heavenly pulse body, and so was he. Therefore, even if xianxia knew that there were many ways to slow down the deterioration of his meridians, he was too lazy to try them. After all, those things could only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. If he could not completely solve the problem of the heavenly pulse body, even if there were many ways to extend his life and slow down the deterioration of his meridians, what was the point of xianxia? He was destined to die. What difference did it make if he died sooner or later? However, Luo Qingtong's appearance changed everything. Xianxian's meridians were strengthened. Therefore he was able to fight with all his strength this time. He broke through his defense and left Tiandu, angering the other party. However, because of this battle, Xianxian's meridians, which had been repaired and strengthened by Luo Qingtong, fell again. Now they were not even 5% strong. They were even deteriorating and falling. Fortunately, after Elder Yu returned to Miracle Medical Valley, he gained some inspiration from Luo Qingtong and made some progress. He developed a new medicinal liquid and managed to stabilize Yi Qianren's broken meridians. Otherwise, Yi Qianxian might not even be able to stand here. Therefore, Feng Yu persuaded Yi Qianxian to get the Tianluo grass. After all, it contained the power of heaven and earth and was nourished by the great Tao. It was too rare. Master was not willing to waste time looking for the evil doctor to get those things. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were also very worried. Now that they finally got an opportunity and it was right in front of them, they naturally did not want to let it go. Master, do you agree? It won't delay the search for the evil doctor anyway. Moreover, the Tianfeng Chu family has made such a big fuss. If the evil doctor is really in the Tianfeng domain, he might have gotten the news from other places and joined them. As soon as Feng Yu said this, Yi Qianxian's eyes flickered. He looked at Feng Yu. What the latter said was not impossible. That woman was the most cunning and cunning. Although the Tianfeng Chu family kept their secrets well, that woman could even deceive him. She had deceived him more than once. So what if she dug out this little secret? All right. Yi Qianxian nodded. You guys go and make the arrangements. We will form a mercenary group and go over. Yi Qianxian did not intend to join any mercenary group. After all, he did not like to be bound by others. Moreover, his identity was too sensitive. If he joined other mercenary groups, it was inevitable that his identity would be investigated. At that time, it would easily arouse the suspicions of others. Yes. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were wild with joy at Yi Qianxian's words. They originally thought that they would need more time to convince Yi Qianxian. They did not expect him to agree so quickly. Sure enough, no matter what it was, as long as they brought up the evil doctor, everything would be right. As long as it had something to do with the evil doctor, there was nothing that Master would not agree to. As the group thought this, they immediately went to make the preparations. In case Yi Qianxian changed his mind later. Among them, Bei Qing ran the fastest. He had been holding it in for a long time. When they arrived at the high-level abandoned continent that the Tianfeng Chu family had mentioned, he could be said to be liberated. However, in order not to attract the attention of others, their strength and cultivation were all sealed. They only lifted a little to adapt to the level of strength and cultivation in the Tianfeng domain. Otherwise he would feel even better. But it did not matter. It was good to have a fight. The group ran quickly. Yi Qianxian stood outside the window and looked at the scene in Mercenary City with deep eyes. Chapter 2458. Qing. Yi Qianxian's figure appeared downstairs in an instant and grabbed the shoulder of the person in front of him. His strength was so great that the latter was forced to be pulled over by him. However, after seeing the other person's face, Yi Qianxian's eyes suddenly became cold and dim. The word Tong was in his mouth, but before it could be completely spat out, it had been swallowed back. It wasn't her. Yi Qianxian looked at the young man in front of him coldly and turned to leave, but he was stopped by the latter. Hey brother, why did you stop me just now? Luo Qingtong looked at the person in front of her with shining eyes. The other person was tall and his face was covered with a white jade mask. She didn't know why, but he gave her a very familiar feeling. He must have seen her somewhere before. Luo Qingtong wouldn't doubt her intuition. This person should have seen her somewhere before. Moreover, it wasn't just an ordinary person who knew him. It was very likely that they had fought before or something else. When Luo Qingtong stared at the mask on his face, Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. After glancing at Luo Qingtong with a complicated look, he said coldly, "Nothing." He flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. Yi Qianxian was very upset that he mistook Luo Qingtong for Luo Xiaoqi twice in a row. He didn't know if it was because he missed Luo Qingtong too much. Or the way she dressed up as a man and wandered around the black field gave him too much room for imagination. Now that he thought about it, even if Luo Qingtong was Xieqi before, she might not dress up as a man after leaving Tianfeng Inscription City for safety reasons. Someone was watching her in the dark. For Luo Qingtong, dressing up as a woman was the best way to get rid of others. However, Yi Qianxian didn't know that Luo Qingtong really did think that way. However, who asked her to be so deceitful back then? She thought that Song Cheng had summoned her because he had enemies. In order to avoid the enemies of the Immortal Slayer Palace, she changed her appearance. Currently, this large birthmark couldn't be restored. If she were to change back into a woman's clothing, that would only attract more enemies. Even if she returned to the true Spill continent in the future, she wouldn't be able to feel at ease. Thus, she had chosen to disguise herself as a young man. This way, when she regained her identity as a young girl in the future, she would be able to get rid of all these troubles. Just as Yi Qianxian was about to fling his sleeves away, Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her hand and grabbed onto his sleeve, refusing to let go. "Brother." Luo Qingtong smiled at Yi Qianxian and said, "It's said that a chance encounter is better than a chance encounter. Look at how fated we are. You didn't pull anyone but me on the street. I feel that the fate between the two of us is really predestined. Do you think we should be friends? My name is Luo Xiaoqi. What's yours?" Luo Qingtong talked nonsense all the way, but on the surface she was paying attention to Yi Qianxian. However, the latter's face was completely covered by the mask on his face. No matter how Luo Qingtong looked, she couldn't see his face. The other party's strength must be extremely strong, and this mask was certainly not an ordinary item. Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes weren't fake. If it wasn't an extremely powerful treasure or the other party's strength, ordinary things that could hide one's aura and face would be ineffective against her. But she couldn't see through the person in front of her. Chapter 2459. Luo Qingtong thought of the mysterious man who came to her room last night to investigate. The same mask, the same powerful strength. And when the other party grabbed her, he blurted out the word Qing, right? What did he want to call her? Qingtong? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. One time wasn't enough, did he want to test her twice? Luo Qingtong was very suspicious that this masked man was the mysterious man who came to investigate her identity last night. The other party still hadn't given up on suspecting her identity? He really didn't give up. Then she would accompany him to have some fun. Luo Qingtong thought so and looked at Yi Qianxian with a smile. The latter was irritated and didn't want to stay here any longer. He suddenly waved his sleeve and was about to leave. "I don't think we are fated to be together." Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. Fated to be fated? The other party really dared to say anything. Who was fated to be together with her? In his life, Luo Qingtong was the only one fated to be together with him. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian suddenly left. He didn't want to be entangled with the other party. Since it wasn't Luo Qingtong, there was no need to be entangled. What's more, the other party and Luo Qingtong resembled each other, which would only make him annoyed. "Hey brother, don't go." Luo Qingtong hurriedly grabbed the corner of his sleeve when he was about to leave. She already suspected that the other party was the mysterious man who investigated her identity last night. How could she let him leave so quickly? However, just as she spoke, she heard a tearing sound. Yi Qianren's expression was unsightly as he looked at his sleeves being torn from the elbow, revealing his smooth and muscular arm. "You." He looked at the youth in front of him with cold anger. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was also looking at the half-sleeve in her arms in a daze. Oh my god, she swore that she only used a little strength. How could she tear off the other party's sleeve? Cough. "Brother, the quality of your clothes is a bit poor." Luo Qingtong laughed dryly as she looked at the other party's cold and angry eyes and said. The latter snorted and didn't want to talk to her at all. What poor quality clothes? It was because when Yi Qianren was about to shake off Luo Qingtong for some reason, she suddenly felt an extremely irritated and unreasonable emotion. Then she fiercely pulled back the force she used to shake off Luo Qingtong, which was why her sleeves were torn. Yi Qianren attributed this to the resemblance between Luo Xiaoqi and Luo Qingtong. For some reason, when he saw the other party's eyes that were as cunning as Luo Qingtong's, he did not want to attack the other party. Your sleeve. It turned out that Yi Qianxian didn't care about her at all. However, Luo Qingtong wasn't annoyed at all. Didn't want to talk to her? Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The smile on her lips was unusually evil and charming. Unfortunately, it's not up to you. Didn't he want to investigate her identity? She would let him investigate it properly. Luo Qingtong snorted and stuffed Yi Qianxian's sleeve into her arms. She was going to ask Gu Yifeng and the others to help investigate Yi Qianxian's identity when she went back. With the other party's appearance and characteristics, it shouldn't be difficult to find them in Mercenary City. And Mercenary City was now blocked by the Tianfeng Chu family. No one could go out. Chapter 2460. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately hummed a tune and rushed towards the pharmacy. She had just come out to buy medicinal herbs. Luo Qingtong didn't know what dangers she would encounter in this high-level abandoned continent, so she had to be prepared. She didn't want to fail miserably before she got what she wanted. After Luo Qingtong left, Yi Qianxian also returned to the inn where he was staying with a cold expression. Bei Qing and Feng Yu had just finished their business and came back. Seeing their master walking in like this, they were stunned. Everyone's jaws almost dropped to the ground. "Master, what's wrong with you?" Feng Yu and the others were fine. Although they were shocked, they didn't ask. However, Bei Qing, who was careless and insensitive, couldn't help but point at Yi Qianxian's exposed hand and ask, "What do you think?" Yi Qianxian looked at him with a dangerous expression. Before Bei Qing could finish speaking, Feng Yu covered his mouth. "Master, I suddenly remembered that the level of our mercenary group is too low. When we participate in the mission, we may be treated as cannon fodder. Then we may lose the opportunity to get the Tianluo grass. I'll go with Bei Qing to upgrade the mercenary group's level," Feng Yu said as he pulled Bei Qing and ran away. Bei Qing's mouth was covered by Feng Yu. He struggled for a long time as he was dragged away. "Feng Yu, are you crazy? The two of us are going to upgrade the mercenary group's level? Don't you know that in order to upgrade a mercenary group's level, besides getting points from completing missions, you can also challenge stronger mercenary groups? You're challenging a mercenary group. Do you want the two of us to be beaten badly?" One had to know that their strength and cultivation were still sealed. Bei Qing's eyes widened. He didn't know what Feng Yu was thinking. Feng Yu looked at him and didn't want to talk to him. The stupid husky. If he didn't say that, he would be sent by his master to deal with those mercenary groups. She really didn't know what to say, but she just had to talk about things that her master shouldn't ask. Sooner or later he would be killed by his carelessness. However, Feng Yu thought of Yi Qianxian's expression just now. It seemed that although her master's expression was angry and cold, but it seemed that there wasn't much hostility or killing intent. What was going on? Who was it that was able to provoke master to such an extent and yet remain unscathed? Feng Yu naturally knew that Yi Qianxian wasn't injured. If Yi Qianxian had made a move, his expression wouldn't be like this. It seemed that the master was simply angry. Strange, Feng Yu pondered as she dragged Bei Qing away. Yi Qianren, on the other hand, had a cold expression as she watched them leave. After Bei Qing and Feng Yu left, the others didn't dare to stay by his side. What a joke, when the master was angry, whoever was by his side would be unlucky. Didn't they see Bei Qing's miserable appearance? If Feng Yu hadn't acted quickly, he would have been even more miserable. Now, the two of them were going to challenge those mercenary groups. Even if they only challenged some ordinary mercenary groups, it was enough to make them suffer. With this thought in mind, everyone immediately dispersed in tacit understanding. I remember that there are still some things that I haven't done. I have some too. Chapter 2461. The crowd ran away quickly, but Yi Qianxian didn't pay attention to them. He just took off his mask and looked at his bare arm with a cold expression. Since he was born, except for the time when he faced Luo Qingtong, he had never been so disheveled. That boy. Yi Qianxian sullenly thought of the way Luo Qingtong pulled his sleeve tightly at that time. If it weren't for the fact that she gave him the same feeling as Luo Qingtong, he would never let her go. Yi Qianxian crushed the white jade mask in his hand and replaced it with a new one expressionlessly. After Luo Qingtong returned to the Red Flame mercenary group after buying the medicinal materials, Yu Mingqian had learned from the members of the Red Flame mercenary group that Luo Qingtong was also going to participate in the mission of the Tianfeng Chu family. Tianluo grass? Thinking of the goal of the Tianfeng Chu family in Mercenary City, Yu Mingqian frowned slightly. That thing was useless to him. But Luo Qingtong's strength was so low. How could the Red Flame mercenary group let her participate in this mission? Didn't Gu Yifeng always treat her as a little brother and love her? Yu Mingqian frowned. If Luo Qingtong participated in the mission this time, what should he do? Wait here for her? It didn't matter if it was before. But at this time, his adoptive father had some doubts about him and was urging him to go back as soon as possible. In this case, it was a waste of time for him to wait for Luo Qingtong here. He couldn't even wait for her to come back. Who knew if she could come back alive in the end? Yu Mingqian frowned and listened to the description of the members of the Red Flame mercenary group. He knew that it was the Tianfeng Chu family who appointed Luo Qingtong to do the mission. His eyes were cold and his eyelashes fluttered gently, giving him a weak and helpless look. Then you go to participate in the mission? It was impossible for him to wait here for Luo Xiaoqi. However, he couldn't force Luo Xiaoqi to reveal the whereabouts of the divine inscription. The Tianfeng Chu clan wanted Luo Qingtong to participate in the mission, and Mercenary City had already been sealed off by the Tianfeng Chu clan. It was easy for Yu Mingqian to take action, but how to conceal her identity and take action was a problem. As he thought about it, he quickly came up with a countermeasure. He wanted to go to that high-level abandoned continent with the Red Flame mercenary group. At that time, he would have plenty of chances to ask about the god's inscription. If they couldn't get any information out of him, it would be much easier for them to make a move. Not just that, but it was hidden so well that the people of the Central Inscription Association simply couldn't find it. As Yu Mingqian thought this, she said in a low voice, "I want to go with you." The members of the Red Flame mercenary group who were talking to him about participating in the mission didn't expect Yu Mingqian's answer at all. It can't be, right? They had told him all this in order to make him back off. After all, it was fine before. But now they were going to participate in the mission, and Luo Xiaoqi was going with them, so it was definitely not suitable for him to go. The group discussed how to deal with Yu Xian. In fact, they were quite sympathetic to his experience. But completing the mission was not like going on an outing. There were many dangers in the high-level abandoned continent. It was already very difficult for them to take care of Luo Xiaoqi, so it was certainly impossible for them to take Yu Xian with them. So they could only tell him the truth, give him some money, and let him leave after they left. But he actually said he wanted to go with them. Chapter 2462. Everyone dug their ears with all their might. A member of the Red Flame mercenary group looked at Yu Mingqian cautiously and said, "That Yu Xian, this mission, you know about it, right? It's very dangerous. You'd better stay in Mercenary City. When the time comes, we'll give you a sum of money. You can live a good life in the future. That, you don't have to go on an adventure with us. It's not suitable for you to go." Yeah. The other members of the Red Flame mercenary group also persuaded, "Yu Xian, it's not that we don't want to take you. It's really not suitable for you to go. Even little Seven has no choice. That stinky old man from Tianfeng Chu's family was humiliated and couldn't bear it. That's why he insisted that little Seven must participate. We don't know what kind of obstacles are waiting for us in the future. You'd better not go. We really can't take care of you." Yu Mingqian's current appearance was that of a helpless man who was even more useless than the average person. His skin was soft and tender, and he would be injured with just a slight touch, not to mention his fragile and sensitive personality. Although the members of the Red Flame mercenary group did not discriminate against him, they would not be stupid enough to follow him and let him complete the mission with them. They were all iron-willed straight men. Only Ouyang Yingyu liked the kind of character who was more manly than iron-willed straight men. There was no way she would fall in love with Yu Xian just because of his elegant, noble and otherworldly image. She would not allow him to tag along just because of a casual remark. Besides, they didn't want to have such a burden. More importantly, they didn't want to be unable to protect Luo Qingtong well in the future because of such a burden. That was absolutely impossible. Therefore, everyone rejected him without even thinking about it. When Luo Qingtong saw Yu Mingqian looking at her, she laughed dryly and didn't say anything. She was actually quite happy that Yu Xian couldn't go with them. After all, she had been pestered by him for the past few days. Her small illusion pill had a time limit. It would expire about once every half a month. Luo Qingtong couldn't grasp the specific time. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was troubled by Yu Xian's appearance. But with the other party's background, if you said something a little harsh, he would think that you were looking down on him for being dirty. Luo Qingtong was speechless. In order to maintain the persona of Luo Xiaoqi, she had worked very hard. If it was her previous temperament, she would have sent him away long ago. It wasn't that troublesome. With that thought, Luo Qingtong looked at Gui Feng. The latter thought that Luo Qingtong was speaking up for Yu Xian, so he immediately put down the dragon-slaying spear that he was wiping and looked at Yu Mingqian coldly. "Impossible. We won't take you with us. Because we can't have a burden without help in the team." Gui Feng's words were extremely rude and hurtful. He had never liked Yu Xian. He was too close to Luo Qingtong. Coupled with his original identity, Gu Yifeng had always wondered if he had ulterior motives towards Luo Qingtong. Once such an impression was planted, Gu Yifeng's attitude towards Yu Xian couldn't be good. Even if Yu Xian hadn't done anything out of line, Gu Yifeng was still worried. It was best to send him away now. Yu Xian's face turned pale when he heard his words. Chapter 2463. I heard a lot about the various factions when I was with that person. Some of them are about the Flying Star region. I know all the information about the various aristocratic families there. If you take me with you, you'll have a lot of assurance when you complete the mission. At least, you'll be more prepared to deal with the aristocratic family that's fighting with the Tianfeng Chu clan. Isn't that right? Gu Yifeng and the others were taken aback when they heard Yu Xian's words. Especially Gu Yifeng. He frowned and asked Yu Xian in a low voice, "Are you telling the truth?" If that was the case, bringing Yu Xian with them would be a big advantage. After all, the Tianfeng Chu clan hadn't told them anything about the aristocratic family they were fighting with. In the eyes of those people, mercenaries like them were probably going to risk their lives for them. They didn't care about anything else as long as they had their lives. If Yu Xian could provide them with information, they could avoid a lot of trouble. They could even protect Shaoqi and leave safely. With that thought in mind, Gu Yifeng looked at Luo Qingtong. Yu Xian looked over as well. His glassy eyes were fixed on Luo Qingtong. He nodded and said, "It's true. However, you also know that those days were a disgrace to me. If it wasn't for Shaoqi, I wouldn't have." He didn't finish his sentence, but everyone understood what he meant. If it wasn't for Shaoqi, he probably wouldn't have told them about it. This also explained why he hadn't mentioned it before. Everyone understood in their hearts and looked at him with a trace of sympathy. Yu Mingqian lowered his eyes. A cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. This was the best reason he could think of to join Gu Yifeng and the others on the mission. At the same time, it wouldn't arouse their suspicion. After all, wasn't it normal for him to know some secrets when he was by the side of that young master from a sect? As for the information about the aristocratic families in the Flying Star region, Yu Mingqian didn't lie to Gu Yifeng and the others. He was the junior president of the Inscription Association. Although he didn't know all the information about the various star fields and families, he still had a certain understanding of them. After all, if those people wanted to ask the Central Inscription Union to forge an inscription tool or something else, if they didn't provide information about their family members, how could they succeed in forging an inscription tool? Yu Mingqian wasn't worried that her words would be exposed once they reached the abandoned continent. When he lowered his eyes, Gu Yifeng nodded and said, "All right, then when the time comes, you will set off with us." After receiving his affirmation, Yu Xian's eyes lit up. Then he looked at Luo Qingtong and said with a smile, "Little Seven, I can be with you again." Really? Chapter 2464. The man's face was covered by a white jade mask, which completely covered his extraordinarily handsome face. Not even a crack could be seen. Only a pair of cold eyes were hidden behind the white jade mask, making it impossible for anyone to see through him. Behind him was a group of people wearing white jade masks. They were tall and slender, like the direct descendants of a wealthy family. They were Beiqing, Fengyu and the others. These people who followed Yi Qianxian around were all outstanding members of their respective families. Just based on their strength and aptitude, they could instantly defeat all the geniuses in Chengdu, not to mention these mercenaries. Even though they had tried their best to conceal their auras, their temperament was still outstanding among the mercenary groups. When the group of mercenaries approached them, they unconsciously distanced themselves from them so as not to be outshone by others. After all, compared to Beiqing and the others, this group of mercenaries was like clay chickens and pottery dogs. They were not presentable. Only the heavens knew that mercenaries looked at strength. Why were these people so handsome? No, it seemed like these people didn't even show their faces. Thinking of this, the group of mercenaries' faces turned green. This time, Tianfeng Chu's people sealed off Mercenary City and issued a mission. Many people from the various powers and families in the city were tempted by the news, and in an instant, many mercenary groups popped up. Although Yi Qianxian and the others were very conspicuous in the crowd, they didn't arouse too much curiosity. After all, the reward for this mission from Tianfeng Chu's people was very generous. In addition, there were many treasures and resources in that abandoned high-level continent. Anyone who didn't go would be a fool. Anyone who had the slightest idea would change their appearance and go. What was so strange about it? Everyone was well aware of this, and Tianfeng Chu's people wouldn't go out of their way to investigate. After all, the more people there were, the more power there was. As for what these people could gain there, it was up to them. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up when she saw Yi Qianxian. She turned her eyes slightly and pulled Gui Feng and the others to where Yi Qianxian and the others were. "Hey brother, what a coincidence. We meet again." She giggled as she patted Yi Qianren's shoulder. Of course, in the end she realized that the man was too tall and she couldn't hit him, so she changed to hitting his waist. "Pa." Yi Qianxian grabbed her hand through his sleeve and said coldly, "I don't think it's a coincidence." He also saw Luo Qingtong when she appeared. But because he was angry about what she had done, he didn't want to talk to her at all. He pretended not to see it. Yi Qianxian felt that he had spent too much time and attention on Luo Xiaoqi, and the other party was a young man. After his verification, it was impossible for him to be Luo Qingtong. Even if the other party gave him the impression of Luo Qingtong, that sly and cunning woman, he shouldn't pay too much attention to her. Love me, love my dog? This did not exist for Yi Qianxian. In this world there was only one Luo Qingtong. No one could replace her. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. After saying this, he suddenly raised his hand and shook Luo Qingtong's hand away. "Hey, why are you like this?" Hu Zhan and the others were enraged by Yi Qianxian's words. Xiaoqi came to greet him politely. Even if he didn't want to talk to her, he didn't have to talk to her like this, right? Chapter 2465. That's enough, Xiaoqi. Since they are ignoring you, let's not stick to their cold buttocks. As she spoke, she pulled Luo Qingtong and was about to leave. But Luo Qingtong avoided her. "It's okay, sistering you. Actually, I was wrong before." Luo Qingtong waved her hand and refused Ouyang Yu's attempt to pull her away. What a joke. She deliberately came here. How could she let Ouyang Yu and the others pull her away? That would be too easy for them. Luo Qingtong glanced at the group of Bei Qing and the others behind Yi Qianxian. She could see that they were all elite warriors and their strength was not weak. How could she give up such a good candidate for cannon fodder? No, a companion. What was more, these people were all wearing masks. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but think of the men in black. Tut tut tut. Were they afraid of exposing themselves in front of her? It was hard for them. But this was also good. She could pretend that she didn't know anything. It was good to be a fool and play with others. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly smiled at Yi Qianxian and said, "Brother, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it last time. You have to believe me." "Well?" Luo Qingtong turned her eyes slightly and said to Yi Qianxian, "Can I help you sew your sleeve back? You must give me a good chance to atone for my mistake." As she spoke, she abruptly grabbed Yi Qianren's sleeve that she couldn't retract in time. Yi Qianxian looked at her coldly. His face was full of anger, but it was all blocked by the white jade mask, so no one could see his expression. They could only hear the anger in his words. Bei Qing, Fengyu, and the others were already stunned when they heard it. It turned out that their master came back shirtless because of this Luo Xiaoqi. They had thought that in this world, other than the demonic doctor, no one else would be able to make their master suffer like this. Well, that's not right. Isn't this Luo Xiaoqi very similar to the evil doctor? Of course, this resemblance was not in terms of appearance but in terms of feeling. If that was the case, it was no wonder that the master was so tolerant of her. With that thought in mind, everyone felt relieved. Seeing Yi Qianxian being grabbed by Luo Qingtong's sleeve, they didn't rush to help. During this period of time, Master missed the evil doctor and was in a very bad mood. Even if they were angered by someone, they were still very willing to let him temporarily forget his feelings. What's more, with Master's strength, if he didn't want to, he could just wave Luo Xiaoqi away. After all, his master couldn't do anything to Luo Xiaoqi because he couldn't let go of the evil doctor. Therefore, everyone watched from the side and did not make a move. Otherwise, with Luo Qingtong's blasphemy against Yi Qianxian, Fengyu, Bei Qing, and the others would have already driven her and the people of the Red Flame Mercenary Regiment away. The mercenary regiments around them kept a respectful distance from them, not only because Yi Qianxian and the others were outstanding, but also because of the strength of Fengyu, Bei Qing, and the others, which made them not dare to approach this group of people with white jade masks. Hu Zhan, Ouyang Yu, and the others were originally very angry and wanted to drive Luo Qingtong away. Chapter 2466. It turned out that there was a reason why the other party had such a bad attitude towards Luo Qingtong. Tear off someone else's sleeve? Hu Zhan and the others glanced at Yi Qianxian's extraordinary temperament, and then thought of his shirtless appearance after his sleeve was torn off by Luo Qingtong. Cough cough. It seemed that it was normal for the other party to be angry. Everyone looked at the sky and didn't know what to say. Just let little Seven go and apologize. The group of Red Flame mercenary group members instantly stopped talking. Anyway, although the man's tone was unkind, he didn't seem to want to hurt Luo Qingtong. Everyone just pretended not to see it. Only Yu Mingqian, whose face was hidden under a veil hat, stared at Yi Qianxian. Was this man the one who came to investigate Luo Shaoqi's identity that night? He guessed in his heart. After all, there were very few people in Mercenary City that he couldn't see through, just like Luo Qingtong. But the man that night was the same, and this man was wearing a mask so he couldn't see through him. Not only that, Yu Mingqian's eyes swept over Bei Qing, Fengyu, and the others behind Yi Qianxian, and the coldness in his eyes became even more intense. None of these people were weak. How could there be such a strong team in the 6-star Tianfeng domain? Subconsciously, Yu Mingqian raised his guard against Yi Qianxian, especially after seeing Luo Qingtong deliberately getting close to him. He had been close to Luo Qingtong for so long, but he hadn't made her completely believe in him and get close to him. This man actually made Luo Qingtong get close to him again and again. If he hadn't seen with his own eyes that night that there was indeed no connection between the two, Yu Mingqian would have suspected that they knew each other. Could it be that he had gone the wrong way before? For someone like Luo Qingtong, taking the initiative to approach her was far better than meeting a stranger and letting her put down her guard. Yu Mingqian frowned and felt annoyed. But there was no way to start over. But he didn't know that there was a reason why Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were so close. Yi Qianxian gave Luo Qingtong a different feeling. It came from the depths of her soul. Even if she didn't know Yi Qianxian's identity and even mistook him for an enemy, she still wanted to get close to him. If it was someone else, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have such an attitude. Not every enemy could be deliberately like Luo Qingtong. Yu Mingqian was thinking too much. On the other side, Yi Qianren tried to pull his sleeves back but failed. He wanted to use force but he was afraid of tearing his sleeves apart like last time. He looked coldly at Luo Qingtong and said, "Let go." He looked into Luo Qingtong's eyes. The youth's eyes were cunning and quick-witted as if they were full of stars. She looked at him and said with a smile, "Don't. Brother, I'm really sincerely apologizing. Look at the material of your clothes. So good. Of course the quality is a little bad but it's shameful to waste clothes." Luo Qingtong said seriously. "Do you want to give me your clothes? I'll help you sew the sleeves." Luo Qingtong said with a smile. He wanted to get rid of her but she wouldn't let him. Didn't he suspect that she was Luo Qingtong? Chapter 2467. Moreover, these people were very powerful. If necessary they would be able to escort them. Luo Qingtong was not the least bit lenient when using her enemies. When Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Hu Zhan, who was next to her, suddenly said in surprise, "Little Seven, you know how to sew clothes. Last time didn't you sew clothes?" Oh. Hu Zhan's mouth was covered by Luo Qingtong. This pig teammate, he betrayed her every time. She felt so stifled. Luo Qingtong really didn't know how to sew clothes. She was a dignified eye technique master. Who would learn that? Besides, what era was the 24th century? Did she have to learn needlework? Of course she would go to a high-end store to order clothes. Moreover, the clothes would be cleaned and maintained by professionals. The broken clothes would be directly thrown away. Who would mend them? Luo Qingtong said this because she wanted to successfully rely on Yi Qianxian and the others. Did this fellow, Hu Zhan, know her good intentions or not? She really had to hand it to him. "Sister Yu, quickly come and control him." Brother Hu Zhan ate the wrong medicine again. He's starting to talk nonsense. Luo Qingtong gritted her teeth and said to Ouyang Yu. The latter looked at Hu Zhan, whose mouth was covered by Luo Qingtong. He was mumbling and waving his hand to show that he was not wrong. She really couldn't help but smile. I know. Little Seven was really cute. Didn't she poke the clothes when she was mending them last time? She actually didn't let Hu Zhan say it. This little guy's skin was so thin. Ouyang Yu thought and suddenly walked to Hu Zhan's side. She twisted his ear and pulled him aside. "Enough, don't you see that little Seven is apologizing? Don't blindly interfere with her." Ouyang Yu also saw Luo Qingtong's purpose of getting close to Yi Qianxian. These people were very strong. If they could travel with them it would indeed be very beneficial. Especially little Seven. This time he was forced to participate in the Tianfeng Chu clan's mission. He did not know what kind of dangers he would encounter in the abandoned continent. If they could walk together with these people, it would be of great benefit to them. Furthermore, with little Seven's ability, it wouldn't be considered as taking advantage of these people. Thinking of this, Ouyang immediately carried Hu Zhan to the side. Yi Qianxian looked coldly at the interaction between Luo Qingtong and Hu Zhan. He didn't know why, but when he saw Luo Qingtong's hand covering Hu Zhan's mouth, he felt a burst of irritation in his heart, and he almost made a move. He felt a burst of depression in his heart, and his gaze towards Luo Qingtong was full of hostility. The appearance of the other party had repeatedly provoked the nerve and bottom line of his longing for Luo Qingtong. If it was any other time, he would have killed him long ago. Just based on the fact that the other party dared to pull his sleeve again and again, and even tore his sleeve, it was enough for him to throw her hundreds of thousands of miles away with a wave of his hand. But because the other party's eyes were very similar to Luo Qingtong's, he couldn't do anything. Swish. He raised his hand and sucked Luo Qingtong over, opened his 5 fingers and choked her throat. The people of the Red Flame Mercenary Corps never thought that Yi Qianxian would make a move on Luo Qingtong. This man had no murderous aura from the beginning. Why did he suddenly make a move on Little Seven? Could it be that he was angered by Little Seven? Thinking of this, everyone suddenly wanted to rush forward. Chapter 2468. Find the clothes and give them to her. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. He waved his sleeves and said to Bei Qing, Fengyu and the others. The latter and the others had not recovered from the fact that Yi Qianxian had just raised his hand to grab Luo Qingtong's throat. Hearing this, they were stunned. Fengyu reacted quickly. He immediately thought of what Luo Qingtong had said before, that she would sew the clothes for their master. Master was not serious, was he? He wanted this young man to sew the clothes for him. But hadn't Master's clothes been lost long ago? Fengyu's lips twitched and he quickly agreed. Yes, Master. Please wait a moment. As he spoke, he raised his hand to grab Bei Qing and the others and ran wildly. What a joke. How could he enjoy such a good thing alone? The clothes must have been thrown into the garbage dump. He could not be the only one who was smelly. All of them had a share of it. The group of people bitterly went to find the clothes for Luo Qingtong. And they had to move quickly. Otherwise, they would not be able to catch up with the people from the Tianfeng Chu family later. The group of people ran quickly. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong coldly and said word by word, Don't you want to sew the clothes for me? Then sew it well. Yi Qianxian also heard Hu Zhan's words just now. He could guess that the other party did not know how to sew at all. In that case, she would sew it well. Let's see if the other party still had the energy to fool around in front of him. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He was confused by Luo Qingtong's eyes just now. He raised his hand to grab her throat. In fact, he did not want to kill her. He just wanted to confirm the authenticity of the Adam's apple on her throat. As a result, Yi Qianren's eyes grew colder and colder. The face hidden behind the white jade mask became even colder and more callous to the extreme. Thinking of the hard feeling he had just touched, he knew that the Adam's apple could not be fake. This Luo Xiaoqi was indeed a young man. Genuine goods at a fair price, honest to both the old and the young. Yi Qianxian was frustrated. Since he couldn't do anything to her, he would just have to get her out of his sight. These clothes were enough to prevent her from getting close to him for a short period of time. As for Luo Qingtong, the hair on her body stood on end the moment Yi Qianxian raised his hand to choke her. It was not because he was scared, but because he was trying his best to restrain his instinctive reaction of wanting to fight back. She could feel that the other party did not have any killing intent towards her. And Yi Qianxian's reaction towards the end was also in line with her guess. But what kind of trick was that in the end? The other party actually agreed? He wanted her to sew his clothes. Damn. Luo Qingtong was dumbfounded. She had purposely found an excuse to rely on him, but she had never thought that he would agree. Furthermore, based on the other party's personality and the way he had always treated her, shouldn't he have always disagreed? This way she would be even more clingy. Wait, isn't there something wrong with this script? Luo Qingtong stared at Yi Qianxian. And Yi Qianxian felt inexplicably comfortable when he saw her beautiful and cunning eyes staring at him like this. The other party's eyes often gave him an illusion that the other party was Luo Qingtong. Therefore, when this pair of eyes stared at him like this, Yi Qianxian inexplicably felt that Luo Qingtong was being teased by him. Unconsciously, the corners of his lips curled up. This smile was dazzling. Chapter 2469. But very quickly, the smile on his lips was forcefully suppressed. He looked at the young man in front of him, his gaze sweeping past his Adam's apple and his flat chest. The light in his eyes instantly turned cold. No matter how similar the other party was, he was still not Luo Qingtong. But seeing that the other party was so similar to the other girl, he would let him play a little more careful. Luo Qingtong's desperate attempt to get close to Yi Qianxian was mistaken by him as seeking protection. And he indeed did not want such a young man who looked so much like Luo Qingtong to die an unnatural death in that abandoned high-level mainland. Hence he turned a blind eye to it. Yi Qianxian's gaze was cold. He did not pay any more attention to Luo Qingtong. Instead, he clasped his hands behind his back and closed his eyes to rest. Luo Qingtong looked at his back as he turned around and cursed in her heart. Was this considered reaping what she sowed? If she had known earlier, she would have said that she would buy him a new set of clothes to compensate him. What the hell was that about mending his clothes? Great, now she had fallen into the pit. Go to hell. While Luo Qingtong was feeling stifled, behind her, Gu Yifeng, Hu Zhan, and the others were trying their best to hold back their laughter. They could not help but laugh. Little Seven was really too cute. She probably did not expect that the man would really let her sew his clothes, right? Let her tremble in excitement. Gu Yifeng raised his hand into a fist and placed it by his lips. He coughed twice to cover up the light laughter that was constantly flowing out from his throat. His other hand patted Luo Qingtong's shoulder as he said, "It's okay, Little Seven, we have faith in you. Alright, when you learn how to mend clothes you can help us mend them too." When he said this, he really could not hold back the laughter in his throat. After all, we don't have such a soft and cute young man like you in our group. There's hope for our logistics in the future. Don't you think so? Gu Yifeng said as he looked at Hu Zhan and the rest. The latter and the rest were about to collapse from laughter. Yes. Hu Zhan's ears were still hurting from being pinched by Ouyang Yu. Hearing this, he immediately raised his hand and shouted, "Little Seven, do your best. We'll wait for you to become an intelligent and brave logistics support." What kind of good logistics was this? Luo Qingtong gritted her teeth as she looked at Hu Zhan. Then she suddenly raised her voice and said to Ouyang Yu, "Sister Yu, I heard Big Brother Hu Zhan and Brother Xiao Yu say that if you weren't a crazy woman, he could beat you with one hand." Hey. Luo Xiaoqi, you can't complain like this. Wah, Ouyang Yu, you crazy woman, are you serious? Hey, we still have to participate in the mission later. Oh. Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't leave for long before they came back with Yi Qianxian's old clothes. They were lucky. Yi Qianxian's clothes were luxurious and extraordinary. Not only was it a robe, but it was also a defensive magic tool. Although one of the sleeves was torn, it was still a good magic robe. Therefore, when Yi Qianxian threw the clothes away, the waiter of the inn put it away and didn't throw it away. Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't have to go through the trash can. They gave the waiter a lot of money and came back with the clothes. Give it to her. Yi Qianxian slightly raised his chin. Luo Qingtong was forced to take the clothes with a depressed face. Chapter 2470. Sew it properly. Don't worry if it gets torn. Yi Qianya's words were filled with indescribable indifference. I have a lot of things here, enough for you to make amends. Luo Qingtong was overjoyed when she heard him say that she didn't need to worry if it got torn. In that case, it didn't matter if it got torn. But who would have thought that Yi Qianxian would have such words waiting for her? Damn it. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian gloomily. When the latter saw the gloomy expression on her face and the anger in her eyes, he inexplicably felt very comfortable in his heart. The other party's appearance as a man, whether it was the shape, the behavior, or the expression, was very similar to Luo Qingtong when she was disguised as a man. If it weren't for the birthmark on her face and the characteristics of a man that couldn't be faked, Yi Qianxian wouldn't have believed that she wasn't Luo Qingtong. But in fact she wasn't. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian's eyes suddenly turned cold. He didn't look at Luo Shaoqi anymore, but turned his eyes to other places in the square and carefully looked around. Now the crowd gathered in the square was very large. Almost all the people who wanted to go to the abandoned continent to complete the task of obtaining the heavenly grass were gathered here. If Luo Qingtong was in Mercenary City, maybe she would appear here? Yi Qianxian had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He carefully looked at the mercenary corps in the square, paying special attention to the young men and women. Then he remembered that Luo Qingtong was a cunning woman. She might not disguise herself as a young man or a woman, but she could also be an old woman or a strong man. He immediately glanced at the others again. But no matter how he looked, no one gave him a special feeling. He looked at everyone, but when he looked carefully, it didn't seem like it. Yi Qianxian looked for a while and felt a headache coming on. It was a pity that he couldn't reveal his identity now. Otherwise, he would have called out the woman's name and reported his identity. If she was here, how could she not show herself? Yi Qianren's thin lips were tightly pursed. Behind the mask, his indescribably handsome face dimmed. Then he slowly closed his eyes in exhaustion. At this moment there was a commotion in the square. It was the Tianfeng Chu family. A group of young men and women of similar ages walked toward the square under the lead of Elder Fu and the others. Judging from the respectful expressions on Elder Fu and the others' faces, it was obvious that these people were the direct descendants of the Tianfeng Chu family. They were the candidates who were going to the abandoned high-level continent to participate in the fight for the Tianluo herb. While the mercenaries were in an uproar, the group of young men and women also looked at the crowd in the square with disdain. Is this the kind of trash that will protect us? Even the bodyguards chosen by our Tianfeng Chu clan's branch families are better than them. A young girl in blue who was walking in the middle of the group complained unhappily. If you don't want to come here, you don't have to. Anyway, there are many descendants of the Tianfeng Chu clan who want to replace you. You're from a branch family. What are you complaining about? Do you really think that the third elder's family is still the direct descendants of the Tianfeng Chu clan? Beside her, a handsome young man said disdainfully. How dare Chu Ke look down on the people of Mercenary City? You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.